Okay, James, we'll go straight into this one. A lot of punters would consider this to be a fact, and then the all-weather racing is at the Wild West. Anything goes. You can do what you like. Nothing's ever going to happen to you.
I sincerely hope that's not the case. If that is the case, then we're all wasting our time upstairs. Obviously, when we look at a day's racing, there are going to be races or meetings that we think are bigger integrity threat than others, and we devote the resource to that. Obviously, when you're talking about amounts of prize money involved, it's much more likely that someone could potentially be persuaded to hook a race up if the prize money's $3,000 and if it's $300,000, and it'd be ridiculous if we didn't look at racing in that way. Is it the Wild West? Does anything go? Absolutely not. You've got stewards there watching the same as we are, the same as they are at any other meeting. Horses have to be ridden on the merits. When it comes to betting, obviously we're all over the markets for those races. We can have a market checked within minutes with the exchanges to see if there's anything untoward going on, and we do on a regular basis.
Okay, for my research for this, I asked a friend of mine to go through Proform and give me a printout of all the horses that were drifted badly and then were slowly away, and it was just ridiculous. You went back over a few years, but there was a lot. I assume it's very difficult to prove anything is wrong, but if there is a big drift and that happens, are you looking at who's laid them? Is there, even if, because a lot of punters seem to think that just goes on and nothing happens.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Nothing publicised about it.
Absolutely not. Absolutely, we're looking at who's laid them. Now, I mentioned earlier the platform that we have, the bet monitor that we have with Betfair, that we can see every bet of unit stake £100 or more. That all comes through anonymously to us. Obviously, we don't get names and addresses and that kind of stuff. So it comes through pre-race as a series of X's. We can have an idea if the bets are coming from the same account. After the race is settled, they'll come up with a bet monitor number, 6 or 7 digit number, which you can then use to discover exactly how much that particular account has played on the race. We can then click into that account, we can see its last 24 hours business. So if a horse drifts badly and I spot that one particular account has laid it for $2,000 5 times, I can have a look, see what his last 24 hours business is. Now, if that account is playing race by race, laying 10 grand of the second favourite in every race, obviously it's normal operation for the business. If I had specific concerns about that yard or that particular horse, I could ask Betfair to run another check. What would be much more alarming is if I look at that guy's last 24 hours business and that's all he's done, and then I continue monitoring that account to the end of the day and he hasn't had another bet, he's just come out of nowhere and laid one horse for 10 grand, I'll be straight on to Betfair, give them the BetMon number, ask them to look at the bets, ask them is it normal for the account, and if it's not, generally what will happen is I'll receive an anonymous account history, and I will go through the account history to see if there's any perceived bias towards any particular trainer, jockey, track owner, and if there is, then I would make a formal application for the person's details, and we would contact them and ask them about the nature of their bets and why they placed those specific bets.
I mean, would you be building up a database and cross-referencing this punter, that trainer, that jockey for build up a pattern over a period? Would that sort of
there are certain bet monitor accounts, anonymous accounts, that if something shows up and we're not entirely happy, or we have some suspicions, but we've contacted the operator and the operator says no, that seems normal, or we don't have any great concerns, we might follow on a daily basis the activity of that anonymous account, and if a month later there's nothing else has come up, we'll stop monitoring it. If there seems to be a bias towards that yard or others, we'll revisit the operator and ask them to have another look.
Okay, so you came into this job after, you say, 30 odd years of punting.
Yeah.
Now, was the level of, in inverted commas, suspicious races higher or lower than you expected when you took the job?
Much lower. I think I'm in print from about 3 or 4 years before I started this job saying we all know what's going on. Like most people think, we all know what's going on, and the BHA are doing nothing about it, and it's rotten to the core. And goodness, there was a time when I was petrified to have a bet on Betfair, because if it had moved a point You know, I didn't want to have the bet because somebody obviously knew something that I didn't. Absolutely not the case. Heartily reassured by what I've seen since I've been here. It's not that nothing goes on. Of course, there are elements that are looking to corrupt the game or looking to take, you know, money by sort of nefarious actions, but it's not nearly as widespread as I thought it would be. I mean, I remember in my first week here, sitting down to have a look at Kempton, an evening meeting at Kempton one evening, and the horse drifting massively. I think it went from sort of 6 to 26 on the machine in the last 5 minutes. Straight onto the bet monitor, discovered an account that had laid 25 grand of it at every price all the way out. Thought, I thought I'd got my first big fish. Checked the account after the race, again clicked on the account to see what else the guy had done, and I discovered that as well as laying 25 grand of it, he had backed it for £2,490 something pounds. He'd almost I don't know exactly how this particular bot worked, but it seemed to be matching a lot at exactly the price it had previously laid, and the guy won, a score if the horse won, and a tenner if it got beat. And this had almost single-handedly been responsible for the drift in the horse's price. Not every big drifter is connections or friends of connections laying a horse. It's just not the case. If it was, we'd have 100 disciplinary panels every month. It's just not the case.
Yeah, you say you thought that you might have had your first big fish there. What if it actually turned out that it was somebody, you know, connected with the jockey, the trainer, the owner laying it? What happens next?
Again, licensed persons have to comply under the rules with our investigations. Unfortunately, we're a civil organisation. We don't have police powers. We don't have the powers that the Gambling Commission have. Hopefully we can get the person, you know, to engage with us. But if someone chooses not to participate in a betting related investigation, all we can do is exclude them. Which means not being able to go racing, not being able to be a racehorse owner, that sort of, not being able to associate with licensed persons. It's not ideal. I wish we had more powers, but we don't. Our website has a list of disciplinary panel results. It also has a list of people who have been excluded by our legal officer for non-payment of fees to trainers and whatnot. It also has a list of persons who have been excluded for non-participation in betting related inquiries. And there's nothing worse than thinking you got to the bottom of something that's gone on and the person just refuses to engage and we can't go anywhere with it. If the inquiry involves licensed people, we can still continue the investigation. If it was to be a trainer or a jockey or an owner involved, we could still bring disciplinary charges against them, but we can't force people to turn up who are not licensed.
If you had really, really serious concerns, could things be elevated to a criminal level?
Yeah, basically that would require the Gambling Commission to become involved. They're the people who have the power. Their remit is cheat. If outcomes are being fixed, if there's cheating going on, that would be for the Gambling Commission to look at. We've got a good relationship with them. The standards of evidence that it seems that they would want, you know, before they got involved in something like that, it is quite high. But that's their remit.
Now, there's been a lot of talk in racing in recent months, years, about the level of prize money at the lower end of the game. Do you think you would have less to do were the prize money higher?
I don't know. Obviously, when we look at integrity threats, we appreciate, it's obvious, that the lower the amount of prize money, the more prone to manipulation it might well be. Is a £6,000 race more or less likely to be corrupted than a £4,000 race? I don't know. Obviously everyone would love loads more prize money for everyone. That might make, you know, sort of lower level potential corruption less likely. Obviously at the lower level it's more prevalent than at Royal Ascot and Cheltenham and whatever else, and that's taken into consideration when we sort of allocate resource. But I'm not particularly sure that specific amounts of money involved in specific races are entirely relevant, but obviously the lower the amount of money, the more we look at it.
Now, the pivotal figure in any sort of, let's say, corruption or whatever, would be probably the jockey. Now, a lot of young jockeys would be quite vulnerable. They're trying to get on, and all of a sudden they're in the parade ring. The trainer or somebody even nastier says, "You're not winning on this today," and they're under a lot of pressure. They really want to be straight. Is there help they can get via the BHA? Can they call somebody?
Absolutely. The integrity department are represented at the jockey seminars, which happen out in the field. We try and encourage people to come forward discreetly. They can come to us. There's the integrity app, British Horse Racing. We've got the Race Straight Line where people can report things anonymously, and we do try and encourage people to come to us and trust in our discretion. You know, if anyone's exerting undue influence on them, rather than feel they've just got to do it because it's a done thing, they can come forward. And there's a new education programme I know is being worked on at the moment that hopefully, you know, when that comes to fruition and gets out there, people realise that they're not on their own, and there's a lot more help out there if they really need it.